Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Political Ray. Happy Monday morning to everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend. It's pretty good. Anyway, um, we are live every Monday morning, every Tuesday morning, Monday through Friday, 7:30 Eastern. So check it out just ahead of the Rumble lineup here on Rumble. So the good, or well, not the good, the weekend story, as it were, was Meet the Press. President Trump went on Meet the Press again for some unknown reason. I'm not a fan of Kristen Welker. I think she lies. I think she manipulates the truth to fit the agenda of the left. I don't think she's a genuine person. I think she's very disingenuous. And I'm not sure why President Trump keeps giving these people the time of day. That being said, I see the other side of it where he wants to get, things that he's doing, he wants them to cover it. And him going on there gives his, his outlook on everything. I think he's doing a good job thus far. There's some things that he's done that I haven't agreed with. In particular, I've said it before, the TikTok thing. He came out at the end of this interview and said that he will push out another deadline for TikTok if necessary. I don't get it. I'm not a fan of TikTok. I do have it. I do use it. Still not a fan. But anyway, I wouldn't be sad if it went away. I think that it should be bought by an American company so that it's not being run by the CCP. Just my opinion. But anyway, we'll get into this. And we've got apparently Jen Psaki came out over the weekend, said that there was no cover up of Joe Biden's mental decline while he was in office. But there was. And everybody knows that, but we'll get into that if as long as I can get through the the Meet the Press thing in a timely manner as it was. But and then apparently Kamala she's going to be making a presidential run according to rumors flying around the internet. So come 2028, we might have another Kamala ticket. We'll see. I don't think so. I think she's going to run for governor of California. I don't think she's going to run for president again. I just don't see it happening. I could be wrong. Maybe she'll run again. There's this thing flying around X that I saw that she's got a degree in economics and she could have been running the country. Well, okay, she may have a degree in economics, but she still raised a crap ton of money, millions of dollars, in the short 3 months that she was running for president, and then she still ended up in debt $20 million. So I wouldn't call her an economic person, but that's just from the outside looking in. And then apparently President Trump has come out and said that he's going to be putting a 100% tariff on movies being imported into the United States. Apparently there's no good movies coming out of the U.S., and foreign investors are trying to get movies made outside of the United States. Here's an idea. Just stop rehashing movies and actually come up with an original idea. I think that's half the problem the movie industry today has. Nobody has any more original ideas, but I digress. We'll get into all that if I can get through the Meet the Press in a timely manner. But with that being said, we'll jump right into this now. Like I said, yesterday on May 4th, President Trump sat down with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. Again, I don't know why he keeps doing this other than the fact that him wanting to put his side of the story out there, what have you, but I'm not in his shoes. I don't know what he's thinking exactly, but that's the only thing I can come up with is the fact that they run with their own narrative. He wants to get his narrative out there. I think he's doing a fine job thus far, 100 days in, and I think it's gone pretty well so far. I'm getting pretty much what I voted for. There's a couple things I don't like, as I said, but for the most part, I think they're going pretty good. Anyway, this first little piece here, we'll get into this, and there was a lot. I encourage everyone to go and watch this on their own, watch the whole thing, because I'm not going to cover every single second of this, but we'll get into it a little bit here. We'll just kick it off with this.
Oil is down, gasoline is down, groceries are down, eggs. You were the one that asked me. You asked me about eggs. It was the first week. I didn't even know anything about what were you talking about?
Eggs was a big thing from the left. Eggs prices are astronomical. What's President Trump doing? And blah, 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 blah. Even though it was from the bird flu, which she actually says in this interview that was actually from the bird flu and that they had to off a bunch of chickens. That's why there was an egg shortage. But they didn't want to admit that to begin with. They just said it was all President Trump's fault, that we had an egg shortage and that the prices were so high. Everybody was like, oh, what about the price of eggs? What about the price of eggs? It was the talking point from the left. But now that they've actually come down, you don't hear nothing about it. It's just the egg prices, they're just a distant memory that nobody wants to rehash. I give them props for bringing it back up because it's all they talked about for weeks. Anyway.
About egg prices were so high you couldn't buy eggs. They didn't have any eggs. And they said Easter is going to be a disaster. Well, we had Easter at the White House, and we had thousands of eggs, and they were down 87%.
Yeah, a lot of that, of course, spike was because of bird flu. But
just wanted to point this out one more time. She said the spike was because of the bird flu. That's not what they were saying when egg prices were astronomical. They were totally fine with blaming this on President Trump. But now that the prices have actually come down, they can't give him a win. They can't do that at all. So they're going to say, well, that was because of the bird flu. But that's not what you said 2 months ago. His first week in office, that whole first month pretty much. What about the price of eggs? Not a mention, not a peep about the bird flu. I said it. Other people said it. Not the mainstream media. No. Because it's something they could paint him in a bad light with. But now, since he actually, he's the president, it's not him per se that brought the price of eggs down, but they are down. But they can't give him any kind of credit for it. So now they're going to say, oh, that was because of the bird flu. That's what they do. They cannot give him a win. But anyway.
When does it become the Trump economy?
Why do you say that?
Well, tell me,
we had the same bird flu as he had.
When does it become the Trump economy?
Right now.
Have you seen?
Okay, just bear with me because these clips are from YouTube. There's going to be some ads, so just bear with me on these. I apologize.
Seen this guy? You know, the one that keeps telling us to
stop running on the treadmill.
Premium.
Well, you might want to listen to this.
So there's going to be some ads.
It partially is right now. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy. Because
let me just say, that's not just something he's saying. He's actually just pointing out the fact that he's trying to get the economy under control. The stuff that he's been doing in his first 100 days of office there's some of it that, are hit and miss. Some of it has been successful, some of it not. He's just pointing out the fact that there are still a lot of policies that have stuck around from the Biden administration. He's just saying that he's trying to fix it. There's still a lot of stuff from the Biden administration that he has to take care of. That's all he's saying. He's not just saying what everything I do is good and everything Biden did was bad. That's not what he's saying. Just to point that out.
He's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. From his auto pen, which I'm sure he knew nothing about some of the things he was supposedly signing, to immigration. You look at what happened with immigration, how bad it was. Think of it. We have murderers, 11,888 murderers. Many of them murdered more than one person. Think of that. And they're in our country. Now, we've gotten a lot of them out, and we know who many of them are, and we're on the hunt. But why would anybody do that? Why would anybody, who could do such a thing with it?
I'll tell you why. Voting blocks. Whether it be they wanted these people to vote in elections, or whether it be to redraw the district lines for more electoral votes within certain states, what have you. It's all political. That, and perhaps, there's a lot of people out there who think that perhaps it's because the U.S. isn't having babies anymore. The kids nowadays, they're just not a thing. A lot of people are not having kids. So it's a replacement. There's that replacement theory that's out there too. I don't think that that's the case. I think it's just simply the fact of they want a voting block. Like I said, whether it be actual votes or redrawing district lines because there's a bigger population. That's what I think.
That allow hundreds of thousands and even millions of people into our country who are criminals and murderers at the highest level. Who would do this?
But, sir, you acknowledge when you
Democrats
announced your
would.
tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
Do
but
you
now
take?
Let me just say something on the stock market. When is it not volatile? It goes up and down all the time. Now, that being said, there has been drastic drops and major gains since he took office. It's been fluctuating quite a bit. I will give you that. But it's been steadily coming back up for a week, maybe a little more at this point. It dropped majorly when he announced his tariffs at the beginning of April. It's steadily on the uptick. Like I said, it's always volatile. It's always, it's a gamble. When you invest into the stock market, you don't know what's going to hit unless you're Nancy Pelosi that makes the laws that either make or break these companies. But I'm not going to ramble about that. Everybody knows my opinion. But it's always been this way. It's going to go up and down. It's just how it always has been. It's how it always will be. But anyway.
Responsibility
Look at
for
today.
that? Yeah. Do you take responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3.
Let me just point this out, that he said he takes responsibility. This is a big statement that he made, and I give him a lot of credit for this because it's not easy to say that you'll take the blame. It's your issue. It's not easy to come out and say that. So I give him a lot of credit for that. Anyway, let's keep going.
3 months. But the stock market, look at what's happened in the last short period of time. Didn't it have 9 or 10 days in a row or 11 days where it's gone up? And the tariffs have just started kicking in. And we're doing really well. Psychologically, I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think.
Look, tariffs are going to cause prices to go up from foreign goods. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant so that people can start buying products made here in the United States. And as far as the doll thing goes, he's going to point out the fact that, look, America's has become very, very materialistic and very greedy. Kids nowadays, they don't need $30. This is what he points out. I agree with it. Kids don't need $30. Get them 3 or 4. They can have fun with those 3 or 4 dolls, and that's all they need. What do they need $30, $50 for? My kids don't have that much. Probably have more toys than what they actually need. But my kids, look, when they stop playing with something, it's gone. Either just get rid of it, depending on the condition. But I don't think my kids need all that kind of stuff. Look, America is very, very too materialistic, and they don't focus on their values anymore. America's become greedy. That's all it is.
I think tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls.
I agree.
Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying
they don't need
Americans
$30.
could see empty store shelves?
No.
This is ridiculous. This is why I do not like Kristen Welker. He did not say that anywhere near close to what he said. That had nothing to do with anything he just said. She asked him, "Are the store shelves going to be empty?" For one, if the toys in these toy aisles are a little bare, I don't care. just my personal opinion, but I don't care if the toys are taking a hit as far as cheap crap coming in from overseas. I don't care. It's not my problem. My kids will get a doll that I can afford, a toy that I can afford. I've got a son who's graduating this year, but I mean, he doesn't really play with toys anymore, but my younger girls do. But they'll get what they get, and they'll be happy with it. Materialistic, and there's he didn't even mention store shelves or shortages as far as product, what have you. But she twisted it to make it sound like this was what's going to go on, and he didn't even say anything remotely close to that. But like I said, Kristen Welker is very disingenuous. She's looking for that gotcha moment. She's looking for that narrative from the left. She's got to do it because she's part of that machine. But anyway.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
And I like the fact that he stayed on point. She tried to twist it and make the narrative what she wanted. He stayed on point and said, no, that's not what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Kids don't need 50 pencils. They can have 5. It's fine. Anyway.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
Waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Well, prices are already going up on some popular items, tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already.
Yes, it is.
Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices.
Look, this is an important point that he's making. Everybody who's anybody knows that energy can affect everything else. Okay. If you've got low gas prices, how do you think that this stuff gets into the stores? It gets shipped. If the cost of gas is down, and they get into this, and I'll talk about that too, but if the price of gas goes down, it's going to be cheaper to ship that item to the store, which in turn lowers the price of said item, passing savings on to the consumer. It's not hard to understand. I'm not very bright. I can understand it. Energy affects everything. You bring the cost of energy down, everything else is going to lower in price as well. That was his whole thing when he was campaigning. Drill, baby, drill. U.S. energy brings the prices of everything down. I'm here for it. I'm all for it. Anyway.
Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy. It went up to $3.90, even $4, and in California, $5 and $6, right? Okay.
Talking about
I have it down to $1.98 in many states right now.
Look, I'm just going to point out the fact that this is not. I will say I'll call him out on it. President Trump saying $1.98 per gallon gas is not right. Now I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if he's actually talking about the wholesale price of of oil itself. I don't know if he's actually talking about gas prices here. He's probably saying gas prices. That's what I would imagine. That's what a lot of people are going to take from this. It's not $1.98. Look, according to gasbuddy.com, you can go look at this because I saw it myself. You can go to gasbuddy.com. They will tell you current prices for every single state, the lowest price up to the highest price for that state, what have you. You can look at it. Arkansas and Texas actually has the lowest gas prices right now, as of yesterday anyway. And I think I'm pretty sure it was $2.19 per gallon. You can look it up. Let me double check what I'm looking at here because I've got it. Let's see. Ooh, the lowest. Yes. Okay, let's see. It's thinking. Maybe it'll come up. Come on. It's not bringing it up. Maybe my computer's got too much going on. But anyway, I'll just say, look, I'm pretty sure it was $2.19. I know it was Arkansas and Texas. There's few places in those states where you can get a gallon of gas for $2.19 per gallon, which is a lot lower than what it's been in recent, the last couple of years. So think about this for a minute. When President Trump, at the beginning of the year, I remember the beginning of the year, gas where I'm at, I don't know about other places, but gas where I am at, it was still $3.90 something, close to $4 a gallon. Since he's been in office, I now pay. It's roughly where now. Again, this is just where I'm at. I'm paying about $2.28 a gallon. I think it is right now. Maybe it's $2.29. I just got gas for my mower a couple days back, and I'm pretty sure it was $2.28 a gallon. It's a lot cheaper than what it was when he first came into office. He's getting energy prices down, like I said, in which turn it affects the price of everything else. When energy costs go up, the price of everything else goes up because it costs energy to ship things and have it put onto a store shelf and what have you. Look, he's done a good job thus far as energy. I'm looking at, I can't wait for it to get back down to less than $2 a gallon. I'm stoked for that. I hope it happens. Maybe it doesn't. But gas is a lot better right now as far as when it was when he first came into office. So we'll keep going with this. Before I start rambling on about gasoline.
When you go that much lower on energy, which is ahead of my prediction, because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places. But when you say costs are going up, even mortgage rates are going down.
Well, but let me give you some.
This is true too, just because of the fact that I can tell you that I've been looking some of the houses, especially out, where I go golfing. There's houses on that golf course that were, back in the Biden administration, those houses were $700,000. Now they're back down to $500,000. Still a lot of money. Not a house that I would buy. I'd love to live on a golf course, but I'm just not going to spend that kind of money. But housing has come down. The cost to build a house has come down. Why? Energy. What it costs to transfer the lumber, what have you. Costs are coming down. Maybe not significantly so that everybody, can see, but they are coming down. It's being gradual, but they're coming down.
Some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down. Some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared.
Let me just point out the fact that clothing, because of the fact that a lot of people like to buy their cheap clothes from China. The fact that the prices of those has gone up. Look, Temu's a prime example. You got crazy shipping costs now, tariff costs, because China's being charged tariffs. You're not going to get your cheap stuff from China anymore. Buy American. The tariffs incentivize American companies to produce here in America, which in turn creates more competitiveness as far as the that particular field of what's the word I'm looking for in that industry. The competitiveness, they're gonna lower their prices domestically, so because they'll have more competition here locally, and then those prices for American goods will come down as well. That's just you let me know if I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. You're bringing more manufacturing jobs back to the United States. That manufacturing job providing clothes that are made here in America. You're going to have more of those options, which in turns, it creates that competition domestically, so the prices will come down a bit. Am I wrong? I think that's how it goes.
Compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
But sir, you campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When you say strollers are going.
Look, yes, he promised to bring prices down on day one. Yes. Everybody saw that promise. Did anybody really expect the prices to just plummet just on day one? I didn't. I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight as soon as he got, inaugurated. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew it was going to take time. It was going to be a process. It wasn't going to happen instantly. Did anybody honestly, you let me know, did anybody honestly think that these prices were just going to drop just at a drop of a hat instantly? I didn't think so. I figured it was going to take a little bit of time. These things don't happen overnight. Sure, you can wreck an economy overnight, but you can't rebuild it overnight. I didn't expect it to happen that way, but that's just me. If somebody else honestly thought that that was going to be the case, you can let me know. Let me know if you're disappointed.
Up. What kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those
even mortgage rates?
different items I just
mortgage
mentioned?
rates are going down despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, $35. You can have 2, 3, 4 and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed.
She keeps going back to different talking points to get her gotcha moment. I think she actually does get a couple in here. There's the one flying around X about him saying, "Oh, I don't know," when he's talking about the Constitution. He says, "I don't know." That's flying around the internet. It's taken out of context though, but just watch the whole thing for yourself. Make your own judgment. You know,
the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look.
How soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars
to China. China takes a lot of American money. A lot. America's in debt to China. He's trying to get us out of that debt and recoup some of that money. I don't see why that's a bad thing, but you can let me know.
With China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. Very simple.
You take me to my next question, which is about China. They've been making a number of public statements.
Very positive statements the last 24 hours.
Well, and most recent.
This is she's going to take something that happened. It was a statement that happened about a week or so ago. She's going to take this and run with this because it fits their narrative. She's not going to run with what was actually recently said, which President Trump points out. But take a look.
Recently, they said before talks could happen, the U.S. would need to remove unilateral tariffs.
No.
Would you consider dropping the tariffs to get China to the negotiating table?
No. They first of all,
not.
You're giving me a statement that was said a week.
Let me just say this, just because this is what I think about this. China has been taking advantage of the United States for a very long time. Now that they're actually getting pushback from President Trump, they're saying, "Oh, well, we have to have these tariffs removed before we can even come to the negotiation table." Why? Why did they have to be removed? No. You've been taking advantage of the United States for far too long. At this point, we're done with you. You can come to the negotiation table with the tariffs in place. If you don't want these giant tariffs put on you, then you can come talk about it. But we're not going to take them off. I'm totally 100% in agreement with President Trump on this. I wouldn't remove them either. I'd tell China, nope. We can talk about it, but I'm not removing them just so that you can come talk to us. No, it's not going to happen. I don't see the point in it. But anyway.
A week ago, you're not giving the statement that was said today.
I have May 2nd Chinese Commerce Ministry.
Do you know what they said today?
The U.S. wants to negotiate. It should show sincerity by preparing to take actions in correcting its mistakes and canceling the unilateral tariffs.
No.
They made, first of all, they made numerous statements.
They've made numerous statements.
You know how many people speak for China? It's like 50
They've made numerous statements.
I can give you a statement for any occasion.
Yes.
But they said today they want to talk. Look, China, and I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. China's getting killed right now. They're getting absolutely destroyed. Their factories are closing. Their unemployment is going through the roof. I'm not looking to do that to China. Now, at the same time,
I don't know if that's actually happening. I don't know if that's the case. But, again, I would just say, look, China's taken advantage of the United States for a very long time. I'm fine with keeping the tariff on them. And then we can, in order to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States and not have cheap goods made from China being shipped overseas. I mean, I'd rather have something here made in America. I support my local businesses. I support local American-made products. That's just who I am now. I try my best to buy American, but sometimes it's not always possible. But this is what I try to do.
Not looking to have China make hundreds of billions of dollars and build more ships and more army tanks and more airplanes.
So you're not, just to be very clear, you're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those tariffs are staying on.
Why would I do that?
Would you lower them?
No.
At some point, I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
I wouldn't.
And they want to do business very much. Look, their economy.
I would not lower the tariffs. That's just me. But he said that, it's a possibility that he could lower the tariffs in order to get them to the negotiation table. I wouldn't. I'd be like, look, you can come talk to us. That's fine. But these tariffs, they stay in place. They're at the rate they're at. Until you come talk to us, maybe we can work out a deal. Maybe we can't. But the tariffs are at where they're at. That's it.
Is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut down.
And many businesses are being helped.
Are you considering tariff relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune.
Look, I think that he should help small businesses in different ways that he could do. I think like I said just a few minutes ago, I support local businesses. I support small businesses. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you want to do your business, if the tariffs are hurting them because they do buy their goods, their cheap goods from overseas, and then they sell them at a higher price here in America, because that's pretty much what they do, then try and buy American. Yeah, your prices on your products may go up, but if you're buying American, you're supporting America. I think he should help them in a way that he could. I'm not sure what that could be. But I think he could give him a little bit of help, not just giving him money. I don't believe in that. But maybe there's something he could do. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't know. But I think he could help. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just to relieve some of that stress, what have you, from the tariffs, if they're actually doing that. But anyway.
Because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine,
and he's going to point out the fact that the automobile industry and a couple others are benefiting from the tariffs because a lot of the manufacturing has gone overseas. The tariffs are put in place in order to bring that stuff back to the United States. He points out the fact that Honda, Toyota, they're building plants here in America. I don't know when they'll go up, but it's going to create American jobs. And the Honda specifically is making the Honda Civic. It's going to be made entirely here in the U.S. The Toyota, they're making specifically their 4Runner because it's one of the most popular models here in America. They're making that product. That vehicle is going to be made specifically in America now. Why? To avoid the tariffs. This is what they were put in place to do.
Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the automobile? I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking you about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
Have you ever seen the magic glasses that can see clearly without glasses? This glasses cannot
get rid of it.
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build,
I will not dismiss this. I will point out the fact that he should have addressed this a little bit better. I would have liked to hear something about what he may do or what he could possibly do in order to help ease the burden of the prices going up on strollers. Strollers are important. So are car seats, what have you. These things that people need for their babies. I think it's important. I wish he wouldn't have just dismissed it. I wish he would have addressed it and maybe thought of something maybe that he could have done. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an economist. I'm not in the supply chain. I don't know. I don't know what he could have said or done, but I don't like the fact that he just dismissed it and pivoted to the auto industry. I think he should have addressed it and he should have maybe come up with something that he could have done to relieve this. But he didn't. So there you go.
Build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very easy. It's very simple.
There you go.
Are these tariffs permanent, Mr. President?
Yes.
Depends on what you're talking about.
Yes. They are permanent until you come to the negotiation table. That's just, again, that's my opinion. Until you come and talk to us about it, we can work out some kind of deal. But as far as the tariffs go, they're in place. That's what they are. If you want to talk about it, that's fine. We can come to an agreement. But as far as right now, this is what you get.
One of the things that is going to bring and has brought, so I think we probably have close to $9 trillion of investments coming into this country. If you look at other,
he's going to point out again a few of the auto, and I heard Hyundai is actually making a plant here in the United States now too, so that's good. But you've also got Apple with a $500 billion investment. I think it was $500 billion. I know Nvidia, who is making a plant in Texas, has a $500 billion investment into the United States now. These companies are coming to the United States to avoid tariffs. This is what they're in place to do. He's going to point it out, but I agree with them. Like I said, they're doing what they're meant to do.
Presidents, there's never been anything like that. This is over a period of 2 months. You got to give me a little break on the 1 month because we're 3 months. But, let's say we had to get started. We had a lot of fake news at the beginning, so we had to beat that down. But so let's say in 2 months. So in just a short period of time, a matter of a couple of months, we have the largest number ever in history invested in the United States and committed. We have between guaranteed, spoken for, and people that are going to make a decision and announce it pretty soon, close to $9 trillion. We've never had anything close. Now,
just keep in mind that he's done this, that he's just over 100 days now. He's done all this. He's gotten these companies to invest in American factories, building products here in the United States. He's done this in a matter of 100 days. A lot of this stuff was within 2 months of his presidency. When was the last time you saw efficiency like that from a Democrat? I don't recall any, but other than maybe Obama with the deportations, because he deported a lot of people. People on the left don't like to admit that, but that's what happened. But anyway.
That's Apple building $500 billion worth of plants. They always built their plants in China. Now they're building their plants over here. That's the biggest computer company, the biggest chip company in the world. The chip company from Taiwan, which is the biggest in the world, is committed for $500 billion. Another one's committed for $300 billion. We have companies, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And let me tell you the other thing, very importantly, automobile companies, plant after plant after plant, Toyota, Honda, Ford, General Motors, Stellantis. I mean, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I don't like this, but it happens to be. They're stopping work in Mexico and they're stopping.
All right. And he goes in and talks about, he's okay with some of the parts being, coming in from overseas as long as the cars are actually built here in America, what have you. And I'm fine with that. Look, like I said, Hyundai, Toyota, Honda, General Motors, they're all, coming to the United States. I don't know about Ford. Pretty sure they were still making their vehicles here in America, but they still had a lot of the parts and whatnot coming from overseas. But I don't think that they ever left America. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know for sure, but somebody let me know. Anyway, that's what he talks about that for a little bit, and he goes on, that we got tariffs covered, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the border. When they were talking about the border in this interview, the border is a complete win. In my opinion, look, the border crossings are the lowest they have ever been in American history since recorded history. Lowest they've ever been. This is a huge win. This is something that he campaigned hard on during his campaign, running for his second term. The border was like his bread and butter. Okay. It's an 80-20 issue. People don't want an open border. They saw the disaster that happened when Biden was in office, when you've got, and we don't even know the exact number. It's anywhere from 10 million to 20 million. I'd say it's closer to 20 million of illegal aliens that came into this country just willy-nilly because the Biden administration just let them all come in. I don't believe in open borders. I think that we have to have borders in order to have a country. But that doesn't even cover the fact that we pay, as a taxpayers, we pay anywhere from $150 billion upwards to over $400 billion every single year on illegal aliens that come into this country. So much money. It's insane. And the fact that he's cut this down to the lowest border crossings in recorded history tells me he's doing the job. Anyway, we'll get into this, and you let me know what you think about his job on the border. I think he's done a fantastic job with the border, and I'm fine with the deportations. You can say what you want. I'm fine with illegal aliens, especially ones that are criminals who commit heinous crimes after the fact that they've been in this country. I don't care if they've been in the country for 20 years. You commit another crime, you get deported. I don't care. And I don't care about the lies that the left is spewing about. There was a 4-year-old cancer child that he deported. Okay, for one, the father was an American citizen. That child had the option of staying with the father and staying in America. The mother who got deported chose to take the child with her. That's on the mom. That's not on President Trump. That's not on Tom Homan. That's on the mom. But they're going to tug at your heartstrings. It's just one of the narratives that they're going to push. The mom chose to take the daughter with her. That's it. She could have stayed here in America and got the treatment, what have you. But the mom said no. And why? Because we, for some reason, prioritize mothers over fathers for some unknown reason. Anyway, take a look at the border. You let me know what you think. This is what he was talking about. This is what they talked about with the border. So here we go.
Let's talk about the border. Okay. Let's talk about deportations. Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded.
Yes.
Is the border?
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely
Isn't that good?
secure.
That when you say that, doesn't that just sound good?
Listen to her tone when she says this, because this is another prime example of they just cannot give him a win. She says, "But is it really secure? But is it really?" This is why I just don't like this woman. She's disingenuous, and she's an evil person. She's got to push that narrative. She's trying to get a talking point. She's trying to get a gotcha, but she doesn't get it here with the border. I don't know why they even bring up the border, because like I said, it's an 80-20 issue, and he is smashing the border and deportations. He's just annihilating this. I don't even know why they bring it up. It's a winning issue for him, but they do anyway.
After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums, isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice statement?
Well, I'm curious to know what it means. You declared a national emergency on the southern border. The order is still in place.
By the way,
even though you're saying
exactly
the border's
what you
secure.
said. It means we have the.
This is the way she's gonna try and twist this. Okay, she's saying you declared a national emergency because of the border, but now you've got it secured, but you just haven't lifted the national emergency. Let me just point out the fact that there are still 10 to 20 million people in this country illegally because of the open border policy from Joe Biden in his presidency. until we get that number under control, I'm fine with it still being an emergency. I'm fine with that. Until that number goes way down. Once they get people deported, like, in the millions, at least the people that have committed further crimes inside of the country, because I don't care what any of these Democrats say, you cross that border without doing it legally through the proper channels, it's illegal. They've committed a crime. That's the crime. You have committed a crime according to the U.S. statute. And until that's under control, I'm fine with it still being an emergency. That's just my opinion. You let me know if you think differently. But I think all those millions of people in here, especially the gang members that came in here willy-nilly, until that's taken care of and it's under control, I think that it's fine still being declared an emergency. Again, just my opinion. You can let me know what you think.
The most secure border we've ever had.
Well, and I guess the question becomes, when will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it at some point? Is it necessary? Because
After
obviously the military is involved. Will you lift that emergency?
Well, the biggest emergency is the courts aren't allowing us to take really.
We're going to talk about that, but talk to me first about this.
That's to me the emergency.
Talk to me first about this.
The border now is not the emergency. The border is it's all part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including 3 on the Supreme Court.
They change.
That doesn't negate the fact that it still has to happen. Just because he put those judges in place doesn't negate the fact that these people need to be gone. If you're okay with murderers, rapists, gang members staying within our country, I don't know what to tell you. I'm fine with them leaving. But hey, that's just me. We'll go ahead and just move on to the minerals deal that was signed by Ukraine. Is a good thing. I've covered this before. Ukraine having this minerals deal is a good thing. It gives them security with the United States because we've got a vested interest within the country. It tells, and then Putin says, "Hey, we've got rare minerals too. You make a deal with us." It's good for both. So anyway, they're going to talk about the rare minerals deal from Ukraine, and we'll get into this.
You just signed a minerals deal with Ukraine. It's a sign.
Oh, here we go with the ad.
My energy bill dropped from $150 to $50 by doing this.
I will not pay for YouTube.
My friends laughed at me when I spent $40.
Introducing our cutting-edge Smart Zoom reading glasses, co-developed by NASA engineers.
It seems that the United States is invested in Ukraine's future. The Secretary of State told me this is a very critical week. Are you any closer to reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia?
I hope so.
How would you characterize
I do believe we're closer with one party and maybe not as close with the other, but we'll have to.
I will say, because of the minerals deal, I think that they are very close to the peace. Look, I said from the beginning, when Zelensky kept flip-flopping on the minerals deal, it was good for the United States. It recoups some of the money that we've invested, billions of dollars, into Ukraine over this conflict. It lets us recoup some of that money. It gives Ukraine security, like I said, with vested interest within the country for the U.S., and it lets Russia know that, look, we've got an interest within country. Stop your shenanigans. I think it brings us very close to a peace deal within that region. That's what I think.
To say, I'd like to not say which one we're closer to, but we did do a deal for the American people that was good. We were able to get rare earth. You know, the Europeans are getting paid back. They have a loan. We didn't. Biden just gave him $350 billion. He has no idea where the money is, what happened. And at least we'll, in one form or another, get our. I don't feel so foolish. And remember this is Biden's war. This was a war that was never going to happen if I were president. This is a horrible, horrible war. And I get to see shots of soldiers through.
I will agree with the statement of, he's said it a bunch of times, about the fact that this war wouldn't have started if he was in the presidency. I agree with it just because of the fact that when Obama was in office, they went into Ukraine, took Crimea, I think it was. And then when Trump got into office, nothing. Biden got into office after Trump, and then they went into Ukraine again. Now there's peace talks happening. I genuinely believe the guy when he says that this wouldn't have happened if he was president. I believe that. Just based off the past.
Satellite, that are so terrible. 5,000 soldiers are being, look, 5,000 soldiers a week on average are dying.
That's insane.
They're not American soldiers, but I want to solve
let's not forget the fact that Zelensky is forcefully bringing guys into conscription to fight this war. He's forcefully, men are being kidnapped off of the street and being forced into the military to fight this war. I've seen videos that I've shown in a previous video of men actually fleeing Ukraine to get away so that they don't get drafted into this war. It's insane, and it's got to stop.
Problem. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers. And if I can save 5,000 souls, I just love doing it.
How long do you give both countries before you're going to walk away?
Well, there'll be a time when I will say, okay, keep going, keep being stupid.
When does that come? Are you close to it?
Sometimes I get close to it and then positive things happen. Okay?
What's the red line for you? At what point do you say, that's it, we're walking away?
Well, there'll be a time when I may say that. And if I do, there may be something I can't, maybe it's not possible to do. There's tremendous hatred, just so you understand.
On both sides.
Kristen, we're talking tremendous hatred between these two men and between,
excuse me, Zelensky hates Putin. Putin hates Zelensky. There's no love lost there. And I give President Trump credit. I'm not sure I would have stuck around. I might have walked away before that. That's just me, though. There is, just the way Zelensky has flip-flopped on a lot of things. And Putin too. The night raids that they had as far as the bombings in Ukraine, I probably would have walked away. But that's just me. I would have just said, look, until you guys are actually ready to come to the negotiation table, I'm done. Y'all, I don't want to see loss of life, but what do you expect me to do? Neither one of you are stopping at this point. You let me know when you're ready to talk. I don't know. Anyway, they talk about, they bring up Canada and Greenland again. And this is something that I don't care about Canada. I really don't. He talks about them being the 51st state. I don't care. I don't want Canada as a state. That's just my opinion. I'd rather not have them. But there's probably a lot of good people in Canada. A lot of good conservative people. There's a lot of liberals up there too. Canada can stay there. I don't want them. I don't want them as the 51st state. Maybe a territory. It's a very vast region, and I don't see it working out as a 51st state. It's just too big. And honestly, if the entirety of Canada was a 51st state, you'd never win another election. That's the conservatives, the Republican side anyway. I don't see it. There's too many liberals up there. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know Canada all that much, but everything I see that comes out of that place is just crap. Look at who they just elected. So let's get into this. They talk about this for a little bit, Canada. And as far as my opinion on Greenland, he says it's important as far as strategically for the United States. Okay. There's not a very big population there. It's all frozen tundra. So I don't see it, but if we wanted to have a base there for strategic defense, what have you, I can understand that, but they'll get into it here. We'll take a look.
You talk to him about making Canada a 51st state, annexing Canada?
I'll always talk about that. You know why? We subsidize Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. In fact, we don't want their cars.
This is because this is why Canada can tout the fact that they don't spend a lot on their military, and they don't spend a lot. They have their free health care for all. Why? Because America subsidizes them to the tune of that much money. That's why. And they don't have to have a big military because they know if anything happens to them, the U.S. is going to come to their aid. That's just how it is. Why? It sucks. I don't like it. But you know what? Canada can't be invaded because we're right below them. Anyway.
We don't need their energy. We don't even want their energy. We have more.
Here we go.
Anyone who's had cortisone injections for more than 3 months needs to see this.
Watch what salt does to.
Have you ever seen the magic glasses that can see clearly without glasses? This glasses can not only
more than they do. We don't want their lumber. We have great lumber. All I have to do is free it up from the environmental lunatics. We don't need anything that they have. We're giving them. I ask.
Look, I'm just going to point out the fact that, look, America has a crap ton of lumber. There's trees everywhere. I see where I live at, there's a bunch of tree farms. For every tree that gets cut down and turned into lumber, 2 more get planted. There are more trees now than ever in recorded history. I don't want to hear it from the environmentalists because, like I said, more trees now than ever in recorded history. I don't want to hear it. Every time one gets cut down, they plant 2 more. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, we have plenty of lumber here at home. There's no reason why we should be buying it from foreign countries.
Asked Mr. Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau, I said, not Prime Minister, Governor. I said, Governor Trudeau, could I ask you one question? Why are we giving you $200 billion? Why are we subsidizing Canada? If Canada was a state, it wouldn't cost us. It would be great. It would be such a great, it would be a cherished state. And if you look at our map, if you look at the geography, I'm a real estate guy at heart. When I look down at that without that artificial line that was drawn with a ruler many years ago, it was just an artificial line, goes straight across. You don't even realize what a beautiful country it would be. It would be great. But I don't think the American public wants me to pay $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. Again, remember this.
Yeah.
We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We do very little business with Canada. They do all of their business practically with us. They need us. We don't need them.
You and I talked, and I asked you if you would rule out military force to take Greenland, and you said no, you don't rule out anything. Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
But not with
I think
Canada?
It's highly unlikely.
Look, let me just point out the fact nothing's as far as militarily. He's not going to go into a foreign country, Greenland or Canada. He's not going to take it by force. It's just not going to happen. In my personal opinion, I think that if they offered Greenland some money, giving their citizens, it's only like 50-something thousand people there. If they offered their citizens some money to be a territory or just become a part of the United States, I think they'd take it. There's no reason for them to have to use military force, especially in Greenland, especially with such a low population. There's no point in it. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it for Canada. He's not going to do it for Greenland. It's a stupid talking point. There's no reason he's going to use military force. It's just not going to happen.
I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
Okay, but you don't rule it out for Greenland.
And by the way, Canada, they spend less money on military than practically any nation in the world. They pay NATO less than any nation. They think we're subsidized. They think we are going to protect them. And really, we are. But the truth is, they don't carry their full share, and it's unfair to the United States and our taxpayers.
But you are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that.
He's not ruling it out. He's only saying he's not ruling it out because honestly, it's just a smart move. He's not going to rule out anything. He's not going to do it, but he's not going to just outright say, because it's a bargaining chip. He's not going to let other people know that he's not going to use force. That would be stupid. But it's not going to happen. Like I said, he's not going to use force to overtake Greenland. It's not a thing. It's not going to happen. It's a talking point they'll use, though. They'll take this clip and say, "Oh, he's not ruling out military force to take over Greenland." They're going to run with it. I'm telling you right now. But it's not going to happen that way. It's not. It's a dumb argument. But anyway,
Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security.
The Trump organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
There we go.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do.
You can't.
I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody.
As far as I understand it, he can run for vice president on a ticket.
Hi, I'm Brett.
And I'm Jonathan.
This is Darla.
Don't care.
And this is
ideally a great.
I don't think he's not going to run. Look, I don't know if this is possible. It could be, but as far as I understand it, he can run for vice president with somebody else at the top of the ticket because he's not president. He's just the vice president. You let me know if I'm wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure. I think that he can do that though, but I don't know.
Republican, a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways. Well, obviously, the biggest one would be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment.
Has anyone in an official capacity presented you with, sir, here are some ideas by which you could actually get a constitutional amendment?
Well, in a capacity of being a big supporter, many people have said different things, but I'm not looking at that.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people.
Look, you look at the bench that the Republicans have, as far as you got Marco Rubio, you got J.D. Vance, you've got Vivek, who's up and coming, you've got now Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. The bench on the Republican side is fantastic. You can't say the same thing about the Democrats. Their leading candidate right now at 10% is AOC. She's popular in her district. I don't see her popularity rather being something nationwide. She's just not that likable, and it's the same thing with Jasmine Crockett. A lot of people are saying now that she's going to be the leader of the Democratic ticket. I don't see that either. She's not popular nationwide. She does have a lot of popularity. She's got a lot of followers. People do like her. I'm not one of them. I just don't see her win. They're not going to win a national election. I just don't see it.
I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do.
Look, I would just say, I don't think she's low IQ. I think she's pretty smart. She knows how to talk to her constituents, and she knows how to push the talking points. I don't think she's low IQ. I think she's pretty smart. But I don't give her a nationwide popularity. I mean, I just don't see it happening. I don't like her. I think she's a grifter. She's fake as fake can be. Not a fan of her, but she is pretty popular. People do like her. Nationally, it's not going to happen. Neither her or AOC. It's just not going to happen.
And I really believe in a two-party system. Because it's good to be challenged. It's really good to have a two-party. You know, it's good. Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And, you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he was grossly incompetent. And I think maybe for artificial reasons. You know, he had operations and things. So maybe that's an artificial. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp, and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was.
I don't like Bernie.
He hasn't gone down.
He's older, but he is sharp.
But Biden is really, he's the worst thing to happen to old people.
I know that you are only 100 days in, but as we sit here today, who do you see as your successor, Mr. President?
Well, it's far too early to say that, but I do have a vice president, and typically it would be, and JD's doing a fantastic job.
I think I like JD Vance. I like JD Vance a lot. I like him actually. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I like him more than Vivek. I know Vivek's he's a good guy. I don't hate the guy. I like JD Vance more than him. A lot of people disagree with that, but I would imagine JD Vance being the vice president, he's going to be taking over the reins. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. He might get, taken over by somebody else. I don't see. Maybe a lot of people will think what DeSantis down there in Florida. Maybe he comes back up. I don't see him running. He's got that scandal with his charity going on right now. I don't think he's going to run again. Just my opinion. Maybe he will. I might be wrong. I don't see that happening. I think JD is the successor. Just what I think, but I could be wrong. We'll see. 2028's a long ways out, but we'll see.
He would be at the top of the list?
It could very well be. I don't want to get involved in that. I think he's a fantastic, brilliant guy. Marco is great. There's a lot of them that are great. I also see tremendous unity, but certainly you would say that somebody's the VP. If that person is outstanding, I guess that person would have an advantage. But I think the other people would all stay in unbelievably high positions. But, it could be that he'd be challenged by somebody. We have a lot of good people in this party.
Anyway, so he straight up said he's not going to be running in 2028. He's not going to be seeking a third term. It's just not going to happen. I know the Trump 2028 hat thing has been going around. It's not going to happen. Anyway. Now they talked about Medicaid and Medicare again. Let me just point out the fact that this has been debunked. It's never happened. The bills that have already been passed thus far, none of them have cut Medicaid, Medicare. In fact, there was not even a mention of Medicaid in any of the bills thus far. There was one bill that actually increased the spending to Medicare. That was it. But they keep running on this fact that they're going to cut Medicaid and Medicare. It's not happening. They've said that they're not going to do it, but they keep pushing it. It's a talking point because, oh my gosh, they're going to take away health care for people. It's not happening. But they keep running with this narrative, even though it's false. But you take a look, you let me know. I think that I don't know what they're doing. I would think at this point that everybody knows that the Medicaid, Medicare thing is false. But I'm probably wrong. There's probably a lot of people out there that still think it's true, and it's not.
What happens if it comes to your desk, has the tax cuts, but also cuts to Medicaid? Would you veto that?
No, we're not doing that.
Would you veto that?
I would if they were cutting it, but they're not cutting it. They're looking at fraud, waste, and abuse. And nobody minds that if illegal immigrants are in the...
I am fine with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Doge. I'm fine with saving taxpayer dollars. If you're not... you just don't like your money? You like your money being wasted? Your taxpayer dollars, my taxpayer dollars, are being wasted on stupid, useless programs. Medicaid, Medicare not being cut, and they're saving taxpayer dollars. I'm fine with it. I don't know why you're not.
Mix, if people that aren't supposed to be there, people that are non-citizens are in the mix, nobody minds that. Waste, fraud, and abuse. But we're not cutting Medicaid, we're not cutting Medicare, and we're not cutting Social Security.
See, I don't know how many times that they have to say it. I really don't. Before people will actually say, okay, well, maybe they're not doing it. Again, I've looked at the bills. I haven't seen one bill thus far that cuts Medicaid or Medicare. Medicare actually got an increase, a big one. They're not cutting these programs, but anyway. I digress. That is all I'm going to cover today. Now, tomorrow, I do have, I got an article about Jen Psaki saying that President Biden, there was no cover-up as far as his mental decline. I'll cover that tomorrow, as well as the Kamala run as far as 2028, and probably some other stories that'll happen throughout the day today. But I appreciate you hanging out with me here. I am live every Monday morning, every Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, and Friday morning, 7:30 Eastern time, right here on the Rumbles. You can also follow me at X at The Political Ray, and you can follow me on True Social at Political Ray. But again, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I hope everybody has a fantastic Monday, and God bless and take care of each other. I need some coffee. More coffee.